You know, when I was growing up in the 1980s, my friends and I didn't spend a lot of time on GoBots. We didn't hate GoBots or anything. We watched the cartoon. We had a couple of those toys in their collection. I had Turbo and Scooter and Leader 1. I mean, how could you not? I had a Psycho that broke in like day 2. We had a couple of these guys. We just weren't huge collectors of them. But even my friends who didn't collect GoBots at all of them seemed to have this toy in their collection. This was like the one GoBot everybody had. A Super GoBot for what it's worth, but it just didn't seem like the others. There was something that set it apart, that made it more appealing. It was super futuristic. It was beautiful. It had that gorgeous blue transparent canopy that screamed futuristic 1980s. It had drivers inside. You could see those little pilot guys. There was a story here. It was called Future Machine. No other GoBot had a name printed on it. And on top of that, too, and probably the most interesting part about this toy, its name wasn't Future Machine. We all called it Future Machine. But actually, if you looked at the box or the catalog, this toy's name was Psycho. Now you tell me, what about this toy screams Psycho to you? If I were to do a toy called Psycho, it wouldn't look like this. There had to be a story there, and it kept me curious and interested for years. What was this thing really about? As I learned the real story of the Future Machine / Psycho, where this toy came from, why it's different, even why it has that name, I came to appreciate this toy even more. I came to really love this toy at a level I hadn't before. So I'm going to tell you this toy story today in the hope that you'll appreciate it on the same level that I do. To start, it might help to understand what the GoBots toy line actually was. So beyond being a toy line with a cartoon that went with it, it was actually an amalgam of a series of imported Japanese toy lines by American manufacturer Tonka. Tonka designed some of the toys themselves. Most came from Bandai, a few came from other places as well. Arco, for example, was one other manufacturer whose toys found its way into the American GoBots toy line. But primarily, GoBots was made up of toys from Bandai's Machine Robo toy line in Japan. The difference is, whereas Takara, taking from Diaclone and Microman Microchange, those toy lines had their own internal storylines that Hasbro just didn't use when they made Transformers. Machine Robo had no internal canon whatsoever. It wasn't until 1986 they finally made a cartoon where there was any kind of explanation of who these toys were, what they were doing, and what they were fighting. Originally, they were just really cool toy designs, usually suggested as write-ins by children in Japan. A really cool concept. So most of those toys don't have a story to them. This guy was the exception. You see, in 1982, Popy, a company owned by Bandai, was looking to find more ways to get into this new Transform robot craze. Popy had been the king of combining robot toys in the 70s and early 80s. They kicked butt there, but now the market was changing. Now that people wanted more realistic vehicle-to-robot transformers, not combiners, but transformers, Popy was looking for a way to stay relevant. And so one place they looked was a super successful Japanese franchise I'd never heard of until now, known as Space Adventure Cobra. Now, if you live in Japan, anywhere near Japan, possibly even in Europe, this is a no-brainer. You know Space Adventure Cobra. It's a very well-known series. It's not just a series of cartoons. It's not just a few movies. There's video games as well. In fact, in 2025, they just dropped a new video game. Space Adventure Cobra is well-known and relevant. In America, never heard of it. But essentially, Cobra is an incredibly well-animated, well-written series. Actually, the premise borrows from the same Philip K. Dick science fiction story that the movie Total Recall starring Arnold Schwarzenegger does, where it's about essentially somebody who wants to go on a vacation inside their brain, and it ends up being a real-life adventure. Probably a whole other episode I get into about everything Space Adventure Cobra, but essentially it's a really well-done series. It was beloved, and as Popy's looking for toys that they can turn from vehicles into robots, there is this car. It doesn't get introduced until episode 25, way late in this 31-episode series. But late in the series, Cobra had many cool flying cars he utilized, but we finally get the Psychoroid, a really cool, very distinct flying vehicle that features heavily in those final couple of episodes. Now, please note, it doesn't transform. There's no point in that anime where it ever becomes a robot. But if you've ever bought the Transformers crossover toys, the Knight Rider kit or the Ghostbusters Ecto-1, you understand the appeal of taking a beloved vehicle and turning it into a Transformer. That's exactly what Popy did. They took this really cool race car, which is, by the way, why the detail is so important. That's Cobra in the driver's seat and his android assistant next to him, which is why she's metal. This was their car. It was important to get the look right, the feel right. The Transformer was a secondary thought. So Popy finds a way to make this into a transforming robot toy. And before they can do much more with that, Popy ends as a company. You see, soon after the Transform robot craze first hit big in Japan and started to make ripple effects overseas internationally, Japan experienced an economic recession I've talked about numerous times because it had huge impacts on the toy industry. When families are fighting to make ends meet, toys for the kids take a hit. That's certainly not an indispensable priority. It's a place where you can cut back on costs. So toy sales go down dramatically. And parent company Bandai absorbs Popy into itself. And they end up continuing this Machine Robo DX series that this was the start of. And they start producing a lot more larger transforming robot toys that transform very similar to this one, and that are a lot more realistic to try and keep up with the Diaclone car robot toys. So that's why GoBots gets their Super GoBots series, where most of the toys transform exactly the same as this one, and yet aren't as cool as this one. This came first. This was the original. This was the creative one done by Popy before parent company Bandai just started pumping them out to make more cash. This was the one that was a labor of love. So if we understand all that now, if you get the fact that this toy that ended up in America and on American shelves was called Psycho, first of all, because the original car was called the Psychoroid, probably because it was a fast, insane car driven by a reckless anti-hero adventurer, this toy becomes a lot more fun. When you're playing with this toy now, you can understand the aesthetic appeal that this was the main vehicle in a beloved TV series. This was the action. Watching this car swerve between other cars, soar into the skies, take on bad guys. This thing was awesome. Transformers, each car got a couple of minutes of airtime each episode if fortunate. This was the star of the late episodes of an entire anime. That's a pretty cool thought. 6 episodes primarily featuring this cool car and adventures. Man, Cobra's a hard show to find on streaming today. Even harder still because there was, in 1982, both a Space Adventures Cobra cartoon and a Space Adventures Cobra film. So, for example, if you go on the Roku channel, they're supposed to have both. They just have the film. Hard show to track down, but if you can find it, man, it's a really good show and an awesome cartoon for this vehicle. So now that you know that whole backstory, now that you know where Psycho really comes from and why he's even more awesome than you originally suspected, let's go to the work table and take one close look at what this toy actually does. At this point in the episode, I always like to remind my viewers that if you're enjoying the episode and want to get more involved but don't know what to say, I always love if you leave me a comment telling me to stay weird. It's kind of my thing. I'll write you back and tell you to stay weird as well. It's a way that we can be connected. It means a lot to me to have interaction with my viewers and fans, so please, if you're not sure what else to say, tell me to stay weird. Or comment your memories of this guy or anything you want to do. Hit like and subscribe. Stay involved. I appreciate you guys so much. But for right now, here is Psycho close up. And to give you a slightly better look of him as well, just so you can see exactly what we're dealing with, mine's a little dinged up over time, but a lot of detail and a lot of love went into this thing. Truly beautiful vehicle. It is on wheels. You can actually move it. But the actual car in the original Space Adventure Cobra cartoon was a flying vehicle. It did not ever need wheels to be on the ground. So now you've taken the aesthetics, the beauty of this toy. Let's transform it and see exactly what it does. If you were around in the 80s, chances are you know exactly how this guy works. But it's always good to remind. And, maybe you weren't. So, here we go. Let's transform Psychoroid. So first we'll pull out the feet over here. It's a very easy, very smooth, very intuitive transformation. By the way, no part of this is die cast. I'm not sure if the original version was. This is all plastic, and honestly, not particularly high quality plastic. Very prone to breakage, very fragile. Fortunately, mine hasn't broken over the years, and mine certainly is heavily played with. It's a pretty simple transformation. You are essentially going to crack it in two places, right there and right there, snap it together, and we have a robot. That's really all it is. It's a very fast transformation. I like the alien look of this guy. Reminds me a little of the Nintendo Robbie the Robot. Just that very inhuman head speaks to me. And it's practical as well. If you look, once again, there's our driver and his co-pilot sitting right there, looking right through this thing. You know, if this is a mecha that they're controlling, it makes sense that they would be the head as opposed to having some head that comes out of nowhere. It's always kind of weird for me, the Transformers crossover versions where, like, the transforming kit turns into a robot that looks like Michael Knight. Like, did he, like, magically merge with the car? What happened? This makes more sense to me. Articulation, yeah, he can move around quite a bit. You know, these arms are posable. He's got these weird, inhuman fingers. He's got knees, I guess. But essentially, it's a very simple toy. It was at a larger scale than the original machine Robos. You know, the first 600 series of them was designed to sort of look like Matchbox cars. Cool idea. This was designed more to compete with the Diaclone car robots, which became many of the G1 Transformers. So that's why it's the larger size scale. And what this has that those toys didn't was a license to back it up. Kids in Japan knew this vehicle from the cartoons, and that was going to help it sell toys on the shelves. Did it work? I have no idea. Certainly not enough to keep Popy in business, but enough that it did spawn an entire series once Bandai acquired it, and certainly it made its way to the United States as part of Super GoBots, and did very well there as well. Yeah, it's beautiful, it's simple, there's nothing all that special beyond it, but it just, sometimes simplicity can be a gift. This toy is just different. Not different from the Machine Robo DX toys that followed, that all transformed in pretty much the exact same way, but it's certainly the first to do this, and it's unique. Very unique. And of course, that vehicle mode is fantastic. There aren't many Transformers that are that aesthetically beautiful in vehicle mode, or this different in robot mode. It stands out, and the story behind it makes it all that much more compelling. You know, sometimes going beyond Transformers is about finding exciting toys you've never seen before. Sometimes it's about looking in the toy box you had as a kid, finding stuff that you knew all along, and learning new things about them, such as Psycho, or the Psychoroid from Space Adventure Cobra. Cool thing to know. Listen, I would love to know in the comments, not just your memories of this toy, maybe GoBots in general, but I'd also love to know, I'm looking for ideas for new episodes. What's going to interest you? Do you want to see more episodes about strange toys you've never heard of before? Do you want to see more things about the toys you already own? Do you want to see expensive, crazy stuff you could never hope to own, or things that are readily accessible and affordable to you? Give me an idea of what you want so I know what episodes to make next. On top of that, if you want to talk to me directly, the best way to get my attention and to get to know me and a lot of other really cool, friendly, knowledgeable geeks personally is to visit us at classiccomics.org. That's where I am every single day. It's been my home online for over 10 years now, and it's a place we make no money off of you. We're just looking for friendly people who want to get to know people and have good conversation that runs deeper and more meaningful than you'll find on social media or on a YouTube comment section, where replies back and forth are easy to track, people get to know each other as people, and friends are made for life. ClassicComics.org. Come find us there. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit like and subscribe. These things help us tremendously. Hype us if you're feeling it. Share this episode so other people can enjoy the awesomeness of it. Check us out on other playlists or other videos. We love having you around. And of course, above all else, stay weird.